All right, here's how to ask a question. All questions must be submitted in the Q&A box. It should be right on your ribbon down below. If you hover your mouse over the screen, you should see a Q&A icon. And please type your organization, your name, and the question into the question box. We will do our best. The team is on board. We will do our best to answer the questions either in the Q&A, or we may read the question out loud at the end of the session and provide answers in that format, and of course, time permitting. So as mentioned, along with the presenters, we also have our HCD team on board. We've got their representatives, the specialists, and even a few of our leadership folks on the call. So we should be able to get to most of the questions. And just that last reminder, put them in the Q&A box, because they go into the chat, they can often be lost. We generally catch them, but sometimes they can get lost, and we want to make sure that we get to your questions. So next slide, please. And as noted earlier, this session will be recorded, and both the slides and the recording will be available to all participants on the ESG webpage within approximately 2 or 3 weeks. Next slide, please. All right, so for today's agenda, we're going to have a few ESG program updates, some general updates. Then we have our spotlight series on the standard agreement amendment process. And then we'll wrap it up with the Q&A session and any technical advice and assistance that we can provide. And let's see, next slide, please. So here we are with our updates for today. This first update is very appropriate as it ties in directly what we will be talking about today. The 2025 standard agreements amendments are processing right now. We look forward to completing them soon. So if you have not already done so, please take action and respond to your grant representative and let us know that your agency is ready to move forward with your fiscal year 25 ESG funding allocation and contract amendment. Additional information on this will be provided in just a few minutes in the presentation. For our June office hours, everyone's favorite topic, monitoring. Yes, this is the return of monitoring. It's that time of year. The ESG team will be conducting a monitoring training during the June office hours session. As many of you are aware, as we have mentioned this many times, as the direct state recipient of HUD's federal ESG funds, we are required by statute to complete annual monitoring of our subrecipients. We will share additional information with you in our June session. And for those of you who've never gone through monitoring before, no worries. We will be there to provide training throughout. We'll set up meetings with your agency if you're selected for monitoring this year. And you also have a bit of an introduction to the monitoring process through the mini monitoring that we do on the RFFs you submit. It's a very similar process. We're looking at your files, your financial management, and so on. But more information to come in June. And next update is the office hours invite process. So today we've started this awesome new combined office hours with our HPD teammates. And as a result, we've switched to a new format for the meeting invite. There's no longer a standing meeting invite that you register for and then it just pops up on your calendar for the rest. In this new meeting format, an email will be sent out approximately a week or so before the meeting, and the email will contain both an agenda and the Zoom link to the meeting. So if you did not receive the meeting email originally, or you need to add staff, you want to get more people involved in this, please email your grant rep directly and we will get that taken care of. Next slide, please. And on that note, you can email your grant representative. We got Sam, Giovanni, and Ryan. And if you're not sure, you can always send a message to the ESG NOFA inbox at the address listed there below. And that is monitored Monday through Friday during normal business hours. We generally will get back to you within 24 hours, 48 if it's a very, very difficult question. But if it's just to add to the mailing list, we'll get right back to you on that and we can get that taken care of. Next slide, please. Any questions so far, Amanda, on the updates?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to get my thing unmuted. No, so far everything is about HAP still, so I think we're good.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, Gio. So we're going to be going over the standard agreement amendment process today. We've been talking about it in the previous two office hours to bring you up to speed, let you know what's going on. Our goal today is to provide grantees with a brief overview of the process so you know what's going on throughout and highlight a few key areas related to the amendment process so you can, to assist with your planning, with your budgets, with your spending. And we'll get more into that right away here. So let's just dive right in. Next slide, please. So standard agreements or contracts, we use the words interchangeably here. Our previous method with the ESG program was a standard 1 year contract or standard agreement. It would be a single contract for each federal funding year, fiscal year 23, fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25, and so on. The contract would be, we would go through the contract approval process, which was very laborious and took several months. We'd go through the life of the contract, and then we would go through the contract closing process, and then we would begin all over again the next year. And we were finding that there were probably better ways to do it. And we went through this before when we told you when we were going to do this, but for those of you who may have missed it, it's just a brief reminder of why we did this. We did this because it streamlines the approval process, which in turn gets the money deployed faster, gives you more time, gives the grantee more time to spend the money, which is always very helpful, as you know, out there in the communities. You want to have as big a spending window as you can. And so we did that to reduce the administrative burden on our grantees and on our staff, and also to get those funds deployed more quickly and to make it a more efficient process. So it was a lot of work. And so we switched to this new method for 2024. And we switched to the multi-year contracts, 3-year contracts. And under this new multi-year format, we can streamline the approval process and we can get the funding deployed quickly. But we understand that there could be some hiccups as our grantees adjust to this new process. So it's going to be the same contract number. We're not making a new contract every year, a new contract number like we used to. It's the same contract that it was in 2024 for fiscal year 2025, which we are amending right now. And it'll be renewed each year in the amendment process with one standard agreement with 3 years of funding. And on that note, let's go to the next slide. As mentioned before, the amendments are in process right now. We've worked with most of you. We've got this taken care of, and we have to verify your fiscal year and then get your fiscal year 25 funding through the process. No worries, though, if you think there are going to be changes or something comes up during the process, you can make changes to your budget at a later date if necessary. And one big reminder, RFS cannot be submitted during the amendment process. I believe there are a few grantees that have submitted RFS prior to the amendment process. Once those have been processed, which I think we've got them all now, but once those have all been processed, we can begin the amendment process for your agency with the intent of making your fiscal year funds available as soon as possible. So just that quick reminder, no RFS during the amendment process. Once its amendment process is complete, we've got the 25 funds in there. You can then begin the RFF process again. Next slide, please. And just a quick update. I just got a message on my screen that said my internet connection was unstable. So if I start freezing, somebody please message me or on one of the chats, and I will turn off my video, as that sometimes helps when the internet is a little unstable. So going back to the standard agreement amendment process. So we're operating now in multiple fiscal years with a single contract. And right now I want to specifically focus on your 2024 ESG funding within your 2024 ESG contract. that is where we are now. And do we have the overlap as fiscal year 25 is getting started? And I realize it may be confusing at first, but please work with us if there are any issues. For your current fiscal year 24 funds, you should be well on your way to spending down those funds. The priority is always to spend down prior fiscal years first. Um, but as each situation is different, we will work with you on that. We remind you to please make sure to check your standard agreement so that you are aware of any upcoming expenditure deadlines for your contract for the fiscal year 24 funds. Your rep can be of great assistance with this. And of course, we will be sending out our standard grant expenditure deadline reminder emails over the next few months as we get closer to the fall deadlines. As the end of the fiscal year grant approaches for 2024, we will be following the regular closeout process. Submit your final RFF and the certificate of completion and work with your grant rep to close out the fiscal year 24 contract. Some of you may already be there. Others will go right down to the wire, but just work with your rep. We can make it easy and smooth for you and get the 24 closed out and be clean and ready to go with the 25. One note, please be aware that even though we're multiple years for the standard agreements now, you're still required as per statute to complete the annual reporting process for the fiscal year funds as applicable. So for a multi-year contract grant, at some point in that contract period, your agency may be reporting on prior year ESG activities at the same time that the grant is still active in a separate fiscal year. So as I mentioned, the overlap, it may be very simple for you, but if it's not, please, we're here to help and it'll be smooth. Next slide, please. So that was the fiscal year 2024 funds that we're kind of winding down right now. And now we're gearing up for the fiscal year 2025 ESG funds, which will be allocated to you through the amendment process. We recommend that you start planning your year two spending goals immediately if you haven't already done so. We recommend that you meet with your providers if you contract out and get a spending plan in place, and you can work with your representative on that as well. Review the expenditure deadlines for the new contract year, and also once the amendment is completed for your contract, you can begin deploying the fiscal year 25 funds in your community immediately. So if you're looking for ways to get a heads up or a head start on the spending of the 25 funds, reach out to us and we'd be happy to assist. One note is that you can begin incurring costs on your fiscal year funding for 2025 as of March 17th, 2026. And yeah, just the main thing is we're spend those 24 funds and then get started on the 25 funds. If you need assistance on that, we're happy to help. And the next slide, please. So just a few quick helpful tips. We'll have the overlapping contract years, as mentioned earlier. It'll be the same contract, but there will be separate activities for fiscal year 24 and 25. So you get that overlap in there. We recognize there might be a few hiccups in there, and we're happy to help. And we're very confident that this new multi-year format is going to be beneficial to our grantees, and also it's got much less of an administrative burden on HCD staff. One thing I did want to note, it's one of those little things that just comes out of when you're thinking about this, when you're down in the weeds, like most of you are, the RFF numbering is going to remain the same. So that may confuse me. So let me give you an example. If it was the old method, it was fiscal year 24 RFFs 1, 2, and 3. Closed out that contract, it's done. Now you got your fiscal year 25 contract, separate contract, different contract number. You'd start out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. RFF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're in a single contract number with multiple years. So let's say you've closed out 24 and you ended on RFF number 3. For RFF, for fiscal year 25 funding, the next RFF will follow the same numbering convention. It'll be RFF number 4 for the fiscal year 25 funds. I'm hoping that example makes sense. If not, we will let you know. We'll work with you beforehand, or maybe not beforehand, but we'll definitely let you know. Hey, you need to renumber the RFF. It's and you just pick up where you left off. So that's just a little tip, little throw in. I wanted to make sure everyone knew, because I kept thinking about it when we were doing the multi-year contracts. I was like, how are we going to do that? But anyway, that concludes this a very brief presentation on the standard agreement amendment process. As mentioned at the beginning, we just wanted to give you an update on what the process is like, how it's going to be, overlapping years, and how differentiate between the fiscal year 24 and the fiscal year 25. Pretty standard stuff in a finance department, but as grant reps or the boots on the ground, you're not always going to be having a lot of time to pay attention to that stuff. So that's what we're here for. And if we go to the next slide, we can now open it up for any questions that you might have.
So far, there's no more questions yet.
Okay, well, this may be our shortest office hours ever for ESG. And I'll give it just one more minute, see if anything comes up. Okay, well, I guess we are all right. If anything comes up, I'm sure we'll just jump in and answer that question. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Gio. As always, we like to provide these ESG resource links at the end. At our webpage, you can find all kinds of policy, assistance, video links, technical manuals, component manuals, just about anything that you need to run the ESG program. That is on our webpage. As mentioned in another slide, the ESG NOFA inbox is also a great point of contact for us. Next slide, please. And you can always follow us on your social medias and our social medias. And next slide, please. And we always put our little pitch in at the end that if you're looking to join our team and help us complete our mission, we'd love to hear from you. You can visit the jobs.cal.gov and look at positions that may be open with Cal HCD. And we do have quite a few right now. So we'd love to hear from you. One last reminder that our next combined office hours will take place on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It will follow the general format of HPD office hours from 10 to 11, and then ESG office hours from 11 to noon. And many of you, I believe 50% of our grantees are both. You have both HPD funds and ESG funds. So you get 2 for 1 on this. So thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you next time, and take care. Bye-bye.